GameMarx.
Hello, I'm Mike.
I'm Cicelie.
I'm Dylan.
And we are doing a developer look at EvilQuest. I've got a game in progress I'm going to load up here. So this is a developer look. This is not a review. We are not doing a review on this game. If you want my review on this game, I bought it, I played it, I liked it, you should buy it. There's my review.
I concur.
Yeah. So, what we're doing is more developer commentary. There's a lot of things done well in this game.
The commentary from other developers.
Yeah, not our take on it, just, you know, dissecting it, deconstructed. EvilQuest deconstructed. So, it's very heavily influenced by Cicelie, more so than any other RPG or JRPG of the NES era. And the main thing here, if you hold down the attack, you can launch a power-up, and the longer you do it, the longer you charge. Now what's cool is you can move around, and then launch that. And this was kind of the Cicelie thing. This is what Cicelie did in that. So you've got standard RPG kind of mechanic inventory here. You can see I got stats on the other side. I also have an inventory of other items, quest items found. Oh look, there's a strength tablet. I can go ahead and use that. That will up my strength. So right now I'm on the way to find some key or something to the dungeon that I need to go to. And that's going to be over here. I've already played and beaten the game, so, but...
No, it's on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
I thought it was in the South Peninsula. Isn't that what you said?
It's in, yeah.
It's on the
Isn't the southmost peninsula the secret?
Across the bridge. It's across the bridge in the sand.
What's interesting about this game is you mentioned it was kind of patterned after Cicelie.
Cicelie.
No T.
No T. Yeah. Cicelie. Or Cicelie, I think.
What's
slightly up.
What was interesting to me when I first played this was
I don't think this was it.
I kept recognizing stuff that reminded me of Zelda or Secret of Mana.
It's in this on the side
it's
of
like
the bridge.
there's a group of bushes down here, and it's like a little tiny. Yeah.
All right, now I get the key. Okay.
But it kept reminding me of Zelda and Secret of Mana on one end, and then like early Final Fantasy on the other for the RPG.
But you haven't played Cicelie.
I have not played Cicelie.
And if you've not played Cicelie, I made that mistake as well. And I've gone and played Cicelie, since the developers themselves have said that this is heavily derivative of Cicelie.
Yeah, we went to the release event, and when we got there, they were playing Cicelie. It was kind of like...
And so I've gone and played that, and so now what you're seeing is not really... What you're seeing is Cicele's derivative of Zelda.
Yes,
and
it kind of mixed the two genres.
It's not doing its own thing. Now here so this is an interesting developer issue here. Like, how do you handle power-up stats? And you can see I'm the max-min player. Like, I'm probably your worst nightmare if you're trying to balance your game and you want me to explore, because I'm dumping all my points into strength. And
is there a level cap?
Not that I know.
Well, I guess your first save game was level 24. So.
Yeah, level 24 is where I got to by the end. Yeah. I didn't power level. There's nothing to say I couldn't wander out in the open area and just power level up. So, speaking of that, one thing very interesting here is this open area that they've got. Tablet up there. It gives you this feeling of, like, hey, it's this big open world and you're gonna run around. The truth is, the game is linear. At every step in the game, you can only go to one place. Like, right now I can go to the Earth Pyramid, okay? Because I've got the key, so I've got that unlocked. But let's say I went...
And until you get the key to the Earth Pyramid, there's somewhere else you have to explore, so...
Right. Well, that's what we just did. That's what we started off. We got the key to the pyramid. So let's say, you know, I was out here and I'm in this big open world and I'm exploring around, which I did a lot of. I'm not actually one to explore a lot in RPGs. I explore a little and then I get back on the main quest. You know, because I don't like having too many
Open
quests at once. So here's the water cave, and you can see, like, I've got to find some way to get rid of this thing. So until I've solved whatever or got whatever item is going to get into this part, I can't go to the water cave. And this is a good tactic for a developer because the game still has the feeling to the player
of being open.
Of being in this large open world, but really it's linear gameplay. And linear gameplay is much easier to balance and design for. Because you know about what level the character is going to be at each dungeon. You can meter out the experience. Now obviously I could just run around for a long time here in the open areas and level myself, you know, like you would with an MMORPG or something.
Yeah, but that's not the standard way someone is going to...
no,
I mean, that's like the minority.
Yeah, it's probably going to get tedious quick, and most won't go for that.
The interesting thing I will say about that sort of linearity is I've noticed a lot of other games do this, especially I've noticed this in first-person shooters. There's kind of a balance. You have to provide enough sort of side areas to kind of give that feeling of open world. It's not something that is easy to fake, I guess. The feeling of an open world.
Well, I think you get it in a couple ways, without actually having to have a true open world, which that would be hard for a hobbyist or an indie developer to spend a lot of time to create that. Yeah. One is, like we saw here on this, is that it's you know, a big open space, but it's limited as to where you can go because you're going to need an item or you're going to need to complete a quest or something to get to the next stage.
Yeah.
The other key, I think, in that experience is backtracking. So, through a lot of the game, I'm going to continually go to that open area. It's almost like a hub zone.
Yeah.
But by the fact that I keep traversing it but going off different little sides of that also add to the feeling that, you know, it's this big, large world that I'm learning and traversing across.
Yeah, and it's not holding your hand telling you need to go here. You actually do have to kind of figure out what it's doing.
Well, it's not holding your hand, but you don't have any other option. I'm not
exactly.
Go upstairs yet. I'm going to explore around a little bit.
One other thing I like is the mini-map. The fact that the mini-map opens up. Because this is the type of thing that, like, I just go for. It's
now.
It tells you exactly what you've seen.
I would like to zoom out on that map.
I wish I could go into the menu and say, "Hey, where have I been?
Where have I been? Where have I not?" I can't zoom out and see an overall progress. Like I said, on this game, the map, for one, just kind of like eggs you on. Like, hey, there's some dark area. You haven't been over there. And, like, the completionist is like, oh, well, I'll go to this little corner and scrub it out, and I'll go over here and I'll scrub that out. And I almost want, like, achievement for, like, perfectly clean map unlocked, you know? But that
so
adds
inexact
to the desire to explore. You know, I mean, that works in the developer's favor here because I'm going to explore out.
It also prevents you from getting too lost, I think, because you've always,
you know where you've been.
Yeah.
And you can at least, like, okay, well, I'll go back the way I came.
You can assume if you're stuck, then it's probably a way you haven't gone.
Now, in each dungeon, they follow a pretty set pattern of usually having an item to find. This is very Zelda-like. Usually there's an item to find, and there's also a set of armor, a shield and the armor itself. So once you've done like a couple dungeons, you know, like they both exist.
And if you get too close to the save point, you're like, oh, well, I need to go back and find the armor.
Yeah, you can tell that older games did this a lot when, you know, save points were... Now most games... A lot of games don't have save points.
No, usually it's a save everywhere. This one adheres to an 8-bit era. save points and things like that. I don't
also doesn't
know
have
that that's actually
checkpoints.
something good I would say to take from this game. I don't know that not having... Oops, I didn't mean to go back down. And not having a save anywhere is a good thing.
Like I said, I've also noticed that there are no checkpoints, so every time I died, it kind of got frustrating. But again, that is an 8-bit thing, and I think...
It's an 8-bit thing, but where does that 8-bit thing comes from? That 8-bit thing comes from arcades, where the whole point of dying and resetting you was to make you plop in another quarter.
Or it also comes from the fact that battery backup was expensive back in the day,
Well, yeah, there was only a handful of games that did that,
Yeah.
so... But I mean, you could still checkpoint progress.
Yeah, that's
So I think here's a save point. So right here I can say.
That's your mid dungeon save.
Now here's another. Don't do this. In the save, there's no progress bar. I don't know that anything is working. I just kind of stare at the screen and pray it didn't freeze on me. Oh, look, it worked that time.
Yeah.
Even
if you did like a fake Ajax style,
it didn't have to move. It just say loading. Say saving, like, okay, you acknowledge my button press.
Even a save here? Yes. Okay.
I think this might be armor.
I don't.
No, this is my ring. Okay. And so, like, this ring is way overpowered for the max min guy. And this, again, like, when you have an RPG, balance... Yeah, balance is going to be hard. So it's going to boost it by 20%. And since I'm going to dump all my points into it, when I played it the first time, I never took this ring off because no other ring was worth it. Like the 20% bonus to all points in strength was always trumping whatever power ring. It might be interesting to play this game and dump all my points into magic and see how strong my spells get. But this may not be a good design choice. My power up here is kind of a spell, but it's going to use my strength-based attack.
Yeah.
So I'm not really... They haven't penalized the player for not at least diversifying into two... I knew you were going to do that, prick. At least, like, hey, you got at least, put into 2 of the 4 if you're going to actually be able to complete this.
Yeah.
I wish also when you ran out of points on your level up, it automatically just pop you down to continue, unless you press B.
Yeah, I can see that, although...
It was an annoyance. A small annoyance, but an annoyance.
You're gonna be in there. I got my shield. Okay.
Yeah, my fear on something like that is that you can actually buy steel shields, though. No, those were iron shields.
You can usually buy all of the weapons right before the tomb in which you'll find them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
that's... I learned that that's not the way to go. Now here is a puzzle. Alright, so... I don't think I can actually clear everybody out. I think they're gonna... The zone scroll is gonna respawn them. So I've got a gate to get in there, and I've got switches to flip, and I can, flip... Initially, I came in and it's like, okay, well, there's 4 switches. I'm gonna run around and flip all 4 switches. And that's not gonna work. Now, what I did the first time I played this is I just kind of randomly flipped switches until it opened.
I looked at those, I saw, hey, there's a picture beside each of them.
But yeah, the eyes here are the puzzle. The cool thing at this moment is, like, even when I just randomly flipped switches, and I came in at the very end, I noticed, like, as I'm randomly flipping, like, hey, some of those are open, some of those are closed. Oh, look, both of those are open eyes. That's what I should have done.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool, subtle way to introduce me to, there's puzzles here. There's going to be some puzzles to work out. This isn't going to be a straight...
Yeah, without beating you over the head with the fact that it's a puzzle.
I don't want to go on at this point. I'm going to go back So this is what Cicelie meant earlier when she said you see the save point, you turn around. Because there's always a save point in front of a boss battle. So even though there's not checkpoints, there is a good save point layout of, like, there's usually one in the dungeon somewhere, just so you don't have to re-enter the dungeon.
And I don't necessarily I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I mean, it does signal.
I think it's a type of good thing.
Oh, it signals it, and it allows the developer. You can make a much tougher boss battle because you put a save point right before then.
Right there. So, you have no excuse for not saving there.
Exactly. And I can do some really cheap shots that you'll have to, like, experience before you know, like, what to do. And the end result is the boss battles become much more interesting as a result.
I will say I know a lot of games that
and
do
I got
that.
my armor. Okay, so now I've got an item and I've got both my armor, so I feel like I've done this dungeon and I can go on.
A lot of games that do the save point thing, though, I like, because even when I hit a dungeon that I feel is dragging on and just, you know, getting to that save point, or getting to a save point, even if you do one halfway through, is helpful because it feels like you're making progress. You know, if you don't know how many floors there are, you don't know how far you have to go, hit a save point and you're telling the player that he's making progress.
Alright. So one good thing to take away from this game, one reason a developer, you know, should check out this game, and this is one we're taking a look at, is these boss battles. Every boss battle is distinct and unique. Now they all have the kind of Zelda, Metroid boss of, like, hey, there's a gimmick here. Like, figure out the gimmick, figure out the weak spot, and it's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
If you just try to, you know, go into it blindfolded, some bosses you may win, some you may not. So, this one here, we got a Medusa, and the thing to watch out for her is she will shoot out of her eyeballs something that will turn you to stone.
What's interesting, I think you said this was a cakewalk. This battle actually took me a while, but I figured out the pattern, but... Now
watch, her eyes are blinking, she's getting ready to shoot, so I'm just going to focus on dodging.
I don't think I picked up the attack thing, and I didn't put as many points into strength as you did.
Her eyes are closed, and I can go back to focusing on her and not worrying about her attack. So again, just by noticing that, right, the player is rewarded, and it's like, yep, you've got what to do on the Medusa battle here. All these freaking snakes.
Yes.
Irritating me. And she's closing her eyes. It usually seemed to be worth it to go ahead and make sure you fully powered up. Clean up the snakes here. That's unusual that I finished a boss battle and didn't actually level up.
Yeah. Usually you get that sudden do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Now, one thing with the leveling up is it pops in so quick you don't realize what you did. I was kind of hoping it was going to go that way, because I was like, alright, I don't realize that I just killed her because the level up screen popped in.
Some games, and I know it probably takes more work for a developer to do this, but some games, you know, have the you leveled up, hit this button to
level up,
you know, continue. So.
Now, at this point, so I mean, in EvilQuest, I'm playing the evil guy, and I'm breaking the seals. So you get
the evil axe,
the super evil axe that they hid in the human world because they could kill the gods.
Which the story has a nice plot twist. If you, did you finish it, Cicelie?
No, not quite.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not going to spoil it, even though it's a developer and not a review. It does have a nice twist when you get the seals open and you go into Battle God. So there's a crack in the back here. This is the only time that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you have to retrace your steps, or what?
Yeah.
Well, no.
or-
Usually, you break the seal and you leave the dungeon.
However you want to.
And you just leave. You're done. You broke the
Okay.
seal.
If
This
you-
is the first one and the only one. This is the first dungeon you do, but it's the only one that has this like, okay, well after you've broken the seal, you've actually
Broken the level.
extended the dungeon a little bit. And I'm gonna say, I wasn't really a fan of this, because it's like I kind of want to be done with this dungeon.
Yeah. Especially after the boss battle. I actually
After the
got
boss fight,
stuck.
it's like, why am I still here? Now, did you get stuck at this next part? Because I'm even going to talk about this next part because
I could not figure out what I was supposed to do or where I was supposed to go.
exactly.
What do you mean?
It's just not clear coming up what is supposed to be done.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of games will. That's kind of an established pattern of, you get the thing you're supposed to get out of the dungeon, and then it takes you out. Zelda did it. Final Fantasy didn't do it, as I remember, which was...
It alternated between doing it and not doing it.
Yes, that's right. I think the crystals would take you out of the dungeon. Like, it would... The original Final Fantasy...
Now, there's a warp spell. I'll be able to get here shortly, and then I can just warp out of the dungeon and go to anywhere I've been before.
So it wouldn't have made sense to do it anywhere else.
But you can't warp at this point because you have to unlock the final gameplay mechanic that you haven't seen yet.
Okay, it's sort of like in the beginning when you learn the charge move.
Yes.
And that kind of got me stuck because you had to... It wasn't immediately obvious.
Now, did you come back here into this back end crack and look around this dungeon?
Yes, but I bet like the place you are now, I bet... Okay, no, I got this far.
You got the leap boots.
I did get the
now,
leap boots.
The problem here is there. Right now, press B to jump. If you're not looking up at that moment, that thing's going to fade out, and that's it.
I was actually going through my inventory and I was like, I know I got leap boots, so that means I should be able to leap, right?
Now, my journal updated, and I found leap boots. This should allow me to leap over obstacles. Up until this point, see, you've been modifying inventory items over here for powers.
Yes.
But leap boots aren't something you can equip.
Yeah. There was the charge
So it
orb.
is just pressing B, and now you can jump.
Yeah, the charge orb kind of did the same thing, but that
Yeah.
was early in the game where you kind of expect that sort of...
I haven't even gotten
At
the
this point-
fundamentals. At this point, which you might seriously be an hour into gameplay. I've played it before, so I'm going quick because I know what's coming up.
I think I'm gonna have to restart and respec the way you did, because I was kind of balancing. I was putting like 2 points into strength and then 1 point into toughness or vitality.
RPGs have taught me a long time ago to min-max.
I still try to balance.
Okay, so there is no way out. You do have to retrace your steps.
Mm-hmm.
Alright,
That
and then, so I get out to here, and the reason I didn't go down in the beginning, like if you did go down, you would realize like you can't walk across this, and then you would go back up and find
then
the track.
You would go, okay, that
Because
would
that's
make
what I
sense.
did the first time.
Right.
It's like, I must find something to jump over.
But yeah, I was stuck here. I actually got on Google and found a forum post where somebody's like, I can't get over this. 'Cause like, I got the
Wow.
jump boots and I can't get over it. Because I missed the press B to jump. How
Okay,
did I take a damage?
Because you jumped into the hole. If you jump into a hole, it will give you 1 damage and put you back.
It makes sense if you've played Link to the Past, because that's like you fall into the hole, you respawn, but you lose a heart.
Thankfully, they're a little more forgiving. You just lose like 1 HP.
Yeah, you essentially have more hearts in this.
I think, talking of spec-wise, like if you're going to replay this here,
Yeah.
you could dump a bunch into strength. I think you could probably dump a bunch into intelligence, and that will drive your magic power, and then you just rely on your spells to do the damage more than...
I'm not really a fan of solely relying on magic, just because in games like this, it usually takes...
mana runs out,
Yes.
and now this one is kind of nice in that you just kind of, wait a few seconds and mana recharges on its own. You don't have to
Yeah.
build it up. That's not something in the original Chrysalis. The original Chrysalis seems to be, hey, you need to get to an inn and rest, or take a potion, and That's just tedious.
It also seemed like sometimes when you were charging the effect of whatever you were charging up, like if you have your fire sword, charged up in like say an ice cave, it would protect you more than it would when you're just walking.
Yeah.
Or ice in a fire cave. It just seemed like the charge up actually was a barrier in and of itself. Not a strong barrier, but a barrier nonetheless.
See, that is interesting because, and I think this is probably especially true with 8-bit games where, you couldn't go on a wiki and read how someone had completely deconstructed the mechanics for the game.
Mm-hmm.
You start building up these superstitions because it seems like this should work.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's like, I'm in the ice cave, let me use the fire weapons, and I'll be safer, or they will do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just that, like, that's an obvious thing, like fire beats ice.
Well, it's obvious in your head, that doesn't mean it's implemented.
But, yes, but that is true. But, the flip side of that is the idea that, if I charge up this weapon, it will shield me.
Now,
you can't.
The EvilQuest handles this in a nice way. You could see when I hit something that I'm doing a damage above it.
Yes.
And so it's real easy to tell, like, that it was doing about 220, and that does 371. So even though I'm killing it, I can just find a creature real quick and figure out, like, what's worth it in an attack-wise to...
Yeah.
So that is a good way to combat that issue. If your players, realize that and they can experiment a little bit. And, if you've got a guy like me, if you have a max min guy in your case, he's doing that. I'm doing that stuff. It's almost...
It makes it easier to do.
Like, I'm one of the types... If you're doing an RPG, I'm one of the types you have to account for. Like, what happens if somebody maxes out a stat here? Now, I think another way that you could combat... a max minner is progressively increasing the cost of the
It depends on how much you want to discourage that sort of thing.
I don't know.
Well, you could progressively increase the cost of the stats.
Or
so,
you could
like,
make a
each
threshold.
point costs double, and that way, at some point, it's like, all right, it's taking so many points I have to dump in here just to get a little boost that it's not worth it at all.
Yeah, even if it was, you've hit level 15. It should take you 2 points for this one.
I can't go to the water cave.
No, I think you're supposed to go back to town.
Yes, that would make sense. I know,
like a town. Yeah, I'm actually kind of confused. I got the jump boots, and I'm trying to figure out the jump boots should have unlocked.
Yeah, it
the next
unlocked
phase.
the sewer.
Is it in the sewer?
It's in the sewer.
I can make a change in the sewer here.
But you make a good point about, like, the how to balance for min-maxing. I had a friend who was working on, like, a point-buy miniature system rule set, and we I remember, like, trying to playtest it a couple of times, and he had that problem where attack and defense were both linear values and were both on the same cost, like point. They cost the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
And what like, when you first start designing a game, you want to look for, or at least I do, like, I want to build an abstract system that just logically makes sense. Like, these two things are values, therefore 1 point should cost, in each of these attributes, should cost 1 point, and you actually do have to get into the messy sort of tweaking to get something like that to work.
Another
right.
Earth strength tower. I did go in there eventually and reorganize all of my spells so that when Mike finally told me, hey, you can press the bumpers to change your spells rather than going back in the menu. I was like, what? Yeah. So when I pressed my bumpers, they came up in order.
And I think I probably found that because I was hitting all these buttons, like, I can't figure out how to use my jump boots. And for some reason, I just didn't hit B. I don't, B is usually not an action. Like in a lot of games, B is like a cancel.
Not anymore, anyway.
Well, I think what they were.
So I guess I just subconsciously don't hit the B because that's never going to be good. That's going to cancel out of something you didn't want to cancel out of.
The one time I hit the B, but that was before I got the jump boots because it was old school 8-bit game, and B always does something in old school 8-bit games.
Skipping through the dialogue, but here's another good. Gal was, hey, all right, I learned this spell from you. Now I'm going to kill you.
What was interesting is they mentioned that.
This is the only time this happens. This is a good. Hey, we've got you caught. You're in a room, and until you kill everything, punishment for exploration, right?
Yes.
So it's hey, if you're just gonna wantonly ramble around things, it could go bad for you. It could go good, go bad. I wish they would have done more of that. I wish there would have been more points where exploration went bad. I got myself in over my head. Now, there we go. That's what I needed, the fire sword.
Yeah, you got it afterwards. I got it before I went into that room. I didn't go in that room until...
Well, I mean, it's just how you explore, but, it kind of taught me of, alright, maybe I want to be a little bit more cautious about how I'm exploring. One thing here, so we exited this sewer. This is the sewer that we exited when we escaped in the beginning. And by having the player come back to this area, right, now that I have the jump boots, I can jump on the other side. Now, of course, when I jump on the other side, there can be stronger creatures that weren't on the first side because I never encountered them. But for the moment up until that I enter the other side, I'm fighting the starting creatures. And now I'm several levels up, so they all die to one hit. And that creates a good sense of power and accomplishment on the part of the player.
I am now the shit.
I am. I am a god. You guys terrorized me, but now I will mercilessly, beat you all down.
What's interesting is...
and even this guy, this guy is near impossible to smack down when you start. I nearly died the first time I encountered him, because he takes so many hits.
I think I did die the first time I encountered him.
And then, being able just to smack him is yeah, I am progressing. I am leveling up and getting stronger and better at the game.
Now that you mention it, though, that the bridge there with the one tile gap in it, I remember passing that and thinking, this is going to be something. Because that was, that's always kind of how, old school games like that did it. I remember...
Yeah, and then I got up to the top and dude was like, oh, there's a sword reportedly down there. It's well, yep, and that was a place.
And I know this is an RPG, but that is a play out of Metroidvania. You're going to retrace these areas, but you're going to unlock a new area that you could not go in before. That's one of the hallmarks of that type of game. And normally that's done in platformers, but it works well in an RPG as well because.
Well, Zelda is a good example of how it works in an RPG.
And I was actually glad that it was the next place to go to rather than way at the end of the game, because I was expecting to go down to that dungeon and just be in that dungeon for a while and then go up into the castle and try to end the game. I was just oh, this is going to be the fire sword just before you get towards the end bosses, and then I'm nope. I was yes!
So,
you thought they would actually give you, the final weapon early?
No, I was thinking that you weren't going to go down to the sewer before it got close to the end, and then suddenly you have the jump boost, and I can go down there, and I'm hey, I get the sword!
Yeah, I'll be honest, looking at this now, with the bridge there, suddenly it becomes so obvious that that's how it works, but I honestly, that would have confused me unless they pointed me back towards the sewer.
I think on that early one with the jump boots, it's a case of you can't go anywhere else until you get this fire sword, because you cannot kill anything in the snow region without the fire sword, right? Okay. It's impervious to all other attacks. So at some point, you're through frustration or through tip, somebody in the town. Now there's a good tip in the town here that there's a giant. Who's the guy? And this is a nice thing, welcome. So most people, they don't have really great conversations. But you'll need to use a fire-based spell to really harm the enemies around here. That's kind of obvious because I'm already here. I'm looking for seals. That's kind of the main here.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like standard, like, original Final Fantasy.
There's a beautiful waterfall, you need something to open it, and then you'll stay as far away from the ice cave as possible.
That's not the guy I'm looking for.
I think he's still right. He's gotta be to the right, because you've searched everywhere else. You talked to her.
Him?
That's the,
Have you heard about the immense power of the ice crystal?
No.
So this tells you that you can turn rivers to ice. So he's telling you how to get there. And you can see the journal entry lets you know that, hey, you just talked to somebody important. You just talked to something that... So even if you kind of blast through it, that's a good indicator.
Yeah. Of what's actually important and what's kind of fluff. Yeah.
I don't think...
No. He's just somebody you refuse to kill because he's slowly dying in agony.
And it would be more evil to
let him slowly die in agony, yeah.
Wow. That's dark. But there you go.
Oh, come on,
there's
I know
the
there's
chest.
a guy in here.
Is it one of the shops, or...?
Maybe it's in the inn.
Possibly. Now...
Here he is.
There we go. Giants have the power to paralyze anything standing on the ground with their fists. A well-timed jump can save you. So this is the guy is telling you the hint to the boss mechanic, okay? Because the boss, which is in the screenshots for this game, on this one, he's going to pound the ground and you'll be stunned if you're on the ground at the time he pounds it. So this kind of thing is cool if you have a player who...
Journal entry added.
Who is into... reading all the dialogue, because, you know, it's like, hey, you will get rewarded for reading all the dialogue.
Talk to everyone.
I've got a heal. I'm gonna buy the warp at this point. So that I can jump around to places where I haven't been.
Jump
up,
jump down.
I don't think I need to do anything else here.
No. And in the village...
Technically, I don't think I had to even go in that town. I could have gone straight
Technically,
to the...
no. Yeah. The fun thing about it is that when you get in that village, you can go out of the village from any direction. You don't have to go back to the front of the town. Yeah. Oh, I feel like walking off the back of the screen. Yay!
Now, see these guys? You notice those guys in the fields. So, one thing... And, you know, some of the reviews on this have, like, given it a negative on the palette swapping, which is taking existing creatures and, you know, changing the color of them, and then using them in a different dungeon, you know, as like a different creature. But that actually can work for the player, because when you see the same creature and he's a different set of colors, you kind of instinctively know that he's going to be more difficult than the version of him I encountered before.
I think you instinctively know if it's you know, like if you're used to old school Nintendo.
Yeah, so of the genre, like palette swaps and not an 8-bit art style would be weird, I think.
Yes. But they do convey a message, and I think that's kind of the way with a lot of the stuff we've discussed here. Like, for example, we've said that in a lot of cases the game doesn't really hold your hand the way a lot of newer games do, and I think there may be value to both approaches. You just have to figure out what type of gamer you're like
playing towards.
And you have to strike a balance. Like, you know, being completely obtuse is bad, but being, you know, painfully obvious and leading the player around by the hand is also bad.
Yeah, like, you're mostly dead, sir.
And, no, I'm not. My health is halfway down.
Especially as someone who's like run D&D games and stuff, you never know how the player is going to take something until you actually run it by someone who has no clue what the puzzle is, what the secret behind it is.
I think, what is it the military says, that all plans are out the window when they encounter the enemy?
Yeah.
No plan survives the encounter with the enemy?
The encounter. Yeah. The first encounter or something like that.
Well, it's not so much that, it's just that you don't know,
playtesting is really going to be the only way, and you need to make sure you have playtesters that are not just like your friends are not a good group of playtesters because they have their ways they play, and it's probably not representative of all the different playstyles that you're going to get.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but the key I'm saying is you want people who don't know what, like, do not do a knowledge dump on them.
Yeah, and people who don't know how you think.
Yes.
Because if they know how you think, they're just going to do it.
But yeah, your friends may not be if they're all the same type of player.
So, but back to the palette swaps, though, that can actually be a good tool. Like, don't listen to the reviewers who are, you know, getting upset because, you know, you didn't design a unique enemy for every encounter. It's fine. I don't think the players, like this thing goes so far out of its way for the boss battles. And it does slowly introduce new characters. And new character classes that you run across that, you know, hey, reusing a couple, just, you know, they fill it out, saves you some art, saves you some assets. They're done on insignificant, you know, just dungeon fodder here. So here's
so jarring.
it pops in. This is what I was talking about earlier, where it just pops in, before I realized, oh yeah, I did kill him.
Yeah.
Like, it almost pops in like, oh, did I die?
What just happened?
Like, it needs to have a timer on it so you know, okay, he died, now...
Yeah.
Or do the Final Fantasy thing.
Yeah, play a fanfare, and then wait for that fanfare to quit before popping up the level up dialogue.
Just something 3 seconds long.
While we're on improvements, one thing here, so we mentioned you can change the spells to the bumper system. This is really difficult to do in the heat of combat. Yeah. So, like, if you're trying to jump between heal and an offensive spell and a boss battle, the bumpers do not work well. I think this is where you take some of the modern RPGs and you put in the...
quick load.
the wheel select. So, you know, you hold down a trigger and you pop up a radial menu, and then, you know, using the thumbsticks you can quickly select.
Although one thing was cool is...
or even just a normal menu if you've got too many spells to put on a radial menu.
I hated having to go back and forth between one start screen and the one select screen to do different things. Because I was like, oh, I need antidote. Oh, I need a healing potion. Oh, I need an antidote. Oh, I need a healing potion. So at one boss battle, I was just went into the select one, but I kept forgetting that it was select and not start. And I'm like, this is backwards for me!
Yeah, it actually...
What is select? I don't know the select that you speak of.
Back,
select. You know which one it is.
Yeah, they do split up the menu, which is...
Yeah, so what are you talking about? You hit start, and you kind of get this menu where you can swap out your items and see your character stats.
And stuff.
When you hit back, now I have the save menu and the journal and the item menu.
You just need one more tab that says your loadout.
Yeah. It's almost like, I see quick game is there. I don't know that is important. The magic tab is really kind of redundant. I mean, I can't actually...
Well, yes, you can. You can't use them, but you can switch them out.
Yeah,
So I change the order, but...
Yes, and you can put your healing spells directly beside whatever magic spell you want to use. That made the loadout a little quicker, but not much.
There are other games that do this. I mean, like, Skyrim has two different... Like, you've got your inventory... you've got your... inventory map magic on your B button, and then your start button is your quests and general stats and save load. I don't think it's bad to split out options between two different screens. I think you just have to be, you kind of have to think about it, and again, this is where it helps to run it by other players because the way you associate those things in your mind may not be the way other players.
Well, I think the error here is in thinking everything is of equal importance. And, as a developer, you might think that, all of these wonderful stats that you're calculating and all that is important.
But I just want to go here.
It's not. It's not as important. I can be buried deeper.
An antidote.
It almost seems like you could split between like the save load.
That was the save point.
That could be on one key, and then your items and your loadout could be on another because conceptually they're grouped. But I don't know.
I think I finally covered all the zones in this first level.
I think so.
That's where I started.
Yeah, because the top.
So again, I can't zoom out. That would be really nice to know that. Yeah, you have covered
the entirety of the level.
Just like it'd be nice to have just like a map screen like Zelda, not necessarily like zoom in and out your mini map.
Just something that says this is how much you have uncovered.
Yeah.
This is a nice effect that the game gets into. Kind of a variance, and it also gives you a feeling that you're getting deeper into the dungeons. It didn't do this in the first dungeon, but it does it in all of the later dungeons here. Is that it starts doing a parallax effect for the background.
Okay.
And that kind of just, like, hey, oh wow, I'm in like some weird ethereal floating
One thing I noticed with the saves...
ice cave thing.
Back to the saves thing. Is like when you get that save complete, you have to press A. Any other button will not get you out of that. Also an annoyance.
Yeah. Again, like, you have patterns of doing things that make sense to you. Other people have other patterns.
I want to be able to press B and get out of it.
I think, again, is a developer thinking all of that is important, and it's not. I walk over the save zone.
Yeah.
It's obvious I'm going to save. I should be able, okay, so we already, like, hey, we don't need two freaking menus, right? So we can sacrifice the back button, and just so when I walk over there, it immediately, like, okay, saving the one slot, 2 or 3, save and get out. All of these menus are extraneous. And, some of that comes from Cicelie. So when you're, basing your game off of the game you loved as a kid, or that's fine. You really need to look at your game in a harsh light, because especially Cicelie is not as common as, say, Legend of Zelda. So the nostalgia you have for all these tedious menus, nobody else has.
Yeah, they may just irk somebody.
They just look like choices you decide to make, and then they're kind of like, why would you do that?
Yes.
And then here's where it is like Skyrim, because, like, hey, dragons. Like that about, no, it's just dragons. Just dragons.
Dragons walking around.
I mean, this isn't like a game complaint, it's like a personal thing of mine. Like, hey, just, like, boom, dragon. What? Like, that's not a boss, like, doesn't talk to me, like,
It doesn't roar.
I'm of the
dragon.
all dragons are smog camp, like, they are rare mythical beasts that, should strike terror into you, and, you don't have that many encounters with and live.
I'm actually of the opinion that, like, this
they're kittens and everybody just has a pet dragon. And...
No. Actually, I'm more of the dragons are smog camp than I am. But really, like, I almost want to say, like, dragons are not something that interests me. In all seriousness, like, I would rather go around in Skyrim. I would rather deal with people and characters.
Oh well.
And little simple stuff than dragons. So
I go back and forth between all the wares of Pern dragons and smog.
Well, see, there you go. Like, there's different, I don't know, approaches to fantasy.
So
not that one is better or worse.
I'm gonna button this up. This has been a developer's look at EvilQuest. Thank you everyone for watching.